Back in 1991, there was this one TV show in Japan that didn't just get people's attention, it, completely rewired the whole country's cultural DNA. So today, we're going to dive into the story of a drama so powerful, it became a full-blown national obsession. So what's with this number, 32.3%? That is the percentage of all televisions in Japan that were tuned in to watch the final episode of Tokyo Love Story. I mean, just to put that in perspective, today, if a show gets a 5% rating, it's considered a massive breakout hit. This was on a whole other planet. And that really is the big question we're tackling here. How did one show manage to literally empty the streets of a megacity like Tokyo? What was it about this one story that made an entire city just stop on a Monday night? Okay, let's get into it. The show's name? Tokyo Love Story, of course. And yeah, that legend you might have heard, it's totally true. On Monday nights in early 1991, young women especially would just vanish from the streets. They weren't out partying, they were at home, completely glued to their TVs. And this whole phenomenon happened in this super specific, really tight window. For just 11 weeks, this Monday 9 p.m. time slot on Fuji TV became maybe the most important appointment in all of Japanese pop culture. It wasn't just something you watched, it became a national ritual. Okay, so to really get why this show hits so hard, you've got to understand the world it was born into. This wasn't just any old time in Japan. This was the absolute dizzying peak of its bubble economy. And the show was a perfect, shiny reflection of that exact moment. See, Tokyo Love Story was the perfect example of what they called a trendy drama. This wasn't about, gritty everyday life. Nope. This was pure fantasy, sold to millions. This vision of a super stylish, sophisticated city life, filled with romance and drama, all set in the heart of what was then the most dynamic city in the world. And this fantasy, man, it was built piece by piece. The whole show was basically this masterclass in aspirational marketing, before we even really called it that. The high-fashion clothes, the cool cars, the fancy restaurants, it was all part of the allure. The show wasn't just telling you a story. It was selling you a dream of what it felt like to be young, successful, and in love in Tokyo. But look, shiny cars and slick cameras don't make a legend, right? The real power, the heart and soul of this show came from one single character who turned out to be one of the most revolutionary heroines in TV history, a woman named Rika. And everything boils down to this one choice for the main guy, Kanchi. Does he choose Rika, who is pure fire, the embodiment of Tokyo's crazy, unpredictable energy? Or does he go back to Satsumi, the quiet, safe, still water of his past and his hometown? This battle between the future and the past is what powers the entire story. And this quote from the official synopsis just nails the tragedy of it all. The very things that make her so incredible, her energy, the sheer weight of her love, are the exact things that just completely overwhelm Kanchi. He's handed this amazing, vibrant love, and he's just terrified of it. It's too much for him. So let's just break down what made her such a game changer. In a culture that often prized, women being quiet and passive, Rika was a bolt of lightning. She made the first move. She was open about her sexuality in a way that was, frankly, shocking for the time. And, maybe most importantly, she used this incredible joy as a kind of armor to hide this deep, deep loneliness. Her $1,000,000 smile when hurt, wow, that became her trademark, an iconic symbol for a generation. And this is the key. You have to get this to get the show. There's this massive metaphor driving everything. Rika is Tokyo. She's the city. She's thrilling, she's new, she's full of life, but she's also, in a way, disposable. Just like people come to a big city, feed off its energy, and then leave, Kanchi does the same thing to her love. He consumes it and then retreats to what's safe and familiar. Okay, but the show's magic wasn't just what you saw. It was also what you heard. You literally cannot talk about Tokyo Love Story without talking about its theme song. It's legendary. The song is Love Story wa Totsuzen ni, Love Story Suddenly, by Kazumasa Oda. And it's not just a great tune, it might be the single most perfect fusion of music and drama ever. The producer actually told Oda his first attempt wasn't good enough and pushed him to create what would become a piece of music history. And the numbers, they're just insane. We're talking almost 3 million copies sold. It stayed on the charts for 44 weeks. It became one of the best-selling singles in Japanese history. This song wasn't just background music, it was the soundtrack to an entire country's obsession. And its legacy goes way, way beyond just sales. That opening guitar riff, it is so iconic that even now, more than 30 years later, it's basically a rite of passage for young Japanese guitarists to learn. It's just baked into the culture. So the big question is, why are we still obsessing over a show that's over 30 years old? It's because the story, and specifically the character of Rika, has this raw emotional power that it hasn't aged today. You can actually see its ripple effect right here. It kicks off in '91 and completely changes Japanese TV. Then it explodes across Asia, starting this huge J-drama boom. Fast forward to 2018, the cast gets back together, and the internet just loses its mind. Then a remake in 2020 introduces it to a whole new generation. The story just refuses to fade away. And its impact at the time was huge. It created this social phenomenon they called the Rika boom. Young women finally saw someone on screen who reflected them. They loved her independence, her emotional guts, even when it led to getting her heart broken. Rika wasn't just a character on TV, she was permission for them to be a new kind of woman. And that deep connection is still so real today. I mean, just look at this quote from a recent Letterboxd review. It says it all, right? People don't just watch Rika, they fall for her, they champion her, and they feel her pain like she was a real person they knew. And really, that's what it all comes down to, isn't it? When you strip away the 90s fashion and the hit songs, the reason this show lasts is because it asks something so universal. It's about that experience of loving someone with everything you have, completely, no holding back, no matter what it costs you. So I'll leave you with this. Have you ever loved like Rika?